Decode DUNE, an exegesis of the DUNE universe.
Hello, friends and family. Welcome to Decode DUNE. It is here, 9/26/21. We've been recording a gang of episodes. You'll probably hear this one in, I don't know, late October. We had previously posted a review of the first episode of Foundation on Apple TV. Yeah. And then we released an episode about, let's hear previous chapters, talking about the Beast Raban is back to taking over Arrakis. The Harkonnens are going to woo Thufir Hawat and also poison him. So they're going to they're going to sweet talk him, and then they're going to date rape drug him. Right. And then
pretty much how I've approached all relationships in my life.
And then our culture has a quicksand fetish, and Dune is no stranger to it. And Paul still has some stuff to learn, and Mama's in control of that training. And here we are. So we are on page 324 of our edition of Dune. Jeff, would you like to start with the reading?
Yeah, we came from Caladan, a paradise world for our form of life. There existed no need on Caladan to build a physical paradise or a paradise of the mind. We could see the actuality all around us. And the price we paid was the price men have always paid for achieving a paradise in this life. We went soft, we lost our edge. From Muad'Dib, Conversations by the Princess Irulan. Oh boy, here we go.
Woo! Soft.
We went soft.
We went soft.
Yeah.
Time to get hard. So Gurney is face to face with Tuek, who is the smuggler who attended the dinner party earlier, who's coup d'etat with Keynes. And there's the whole thing. There's 43 men of Gurney's are left. And basically the conversation here is like, what do we do, right? I think it said the only way you're going to get off planet is by doing some service to us where it earns your travel. Yeah. Right. And Gurney's like, all right, my sword is yours. I want vengeance as soon as possible. And Tuek's like, about that. We actually don't want vengeance quickly. Like, do not make any overt open moves against the Harkonnens or we will kill you immediately. Right. You're going to play the long game here. I have my own vengeance that I need to make happen, but we kind of have a thing here. Yeah. And then there's what about my men? And he's like, originally Gurney's like, I would prefer, they followed me so far, or they followed me this far and it's gone bad here on Arrakis. I would prefer not ask anything of them and let them make their choices. Seems like Tuek pretty well persuades him to take the opposite approach, which is, hey, you're a leader of men. They have followed you so far. Yeah. Why don't you maybe actually do, in fact, consider persuading them to work with us, and that will help earn their travel. And I think it ends with him kind of saying, okay, it's my own decisions then. It's your own decision. But I think ultimately he's going to do exactly what Tuek suggested. Yes. And then there's this thing at the end, two points to comment at the end. There's some Atreides branding where his Atreides men are kind of there's a buddy system in place where any wounded Atreides man has a non-wounded Atreides man working with him in addition to like a medic. And it's a moment of pride of like the Atreides take care of their own. So we have those echoes towards what it was that Duke Leto had built. Also, there's a moment where Gurney says that Tuek had in a given moment a lot of confidence, and he knew that he was the leader of men who was important, and he had a mission, and it reminded him of Leto back on Caladan pre-Arrakis. Yeah. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And then the next thing is someone brings him his balisette and says a dying man's wish is to hear another songy song from Gurney. And that's pretty much the chapter. This is my comment is, I would say for the vast majority of this chapter, I think we see the side of Gurney that a Josh Brolin will do nicely in the movie. But at the end, when the battle set comes out, it's immediately back to, unless they make that like an acoustic guitar and Gurney's sort of almost more of like a Johnny Cash.
I was going to go John Denver.
John Denver, yeah. Unless he's like a country, not like a Nashville country singer, but sort of like a Red Clay kind of crooner. I don't know if that's the right term, but that's the only way I see Josh Brolin doing any sort of music thing. I don't see him doing, to my knowledge, the ballad is understood to be sort of similar to like a medieval type of vibe, or even exotic or Eastern. So again, I don't see that with Josh Brolin in any way whatsoever. Right. So that's my take on the chapter. Jeff, you're a leadership coach. Do you have comments about some of the comments in, from that perspective of their interaction?
No, I think he's doing what good leaders should do here. He is clearly just reinforcing the goals. Who are we? Who are we in opposition to? What makes us different?
Yeah.
I just think he's being a good leader here.
You Tuek or Gurney or both?
Oh,
yeah.
Tuek Tuek, I think here is just here to really frame who Gurney Halleck is. I honestly, I think anyone probably could have had this interaction, and I just think we just need a person so that you have a point of view, so that we can take a point of view as we see how Halleck thinks, what his motivations are. You think I'm getting that wrong? I don't think so.
What?
Do you think I'm getting that wrong?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh.
I think that's what's going on. I think so. The whole Tuek is not. It's not important that it's Tuek that he's speaking to. What's important here is that we're seeing him be a leader. Yeah.
Cool.
We're gonna get a chance to see a lot of that. So
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
I don't really see much else here except just reinforcing Gurney Halleck's loyalty, his understanding of sort of right and wrong in this universe, who's good, who's bad. What's he gonna do?
I don't mean to rush through this chapter.
Oh, okay, we're getting to the good stuff. Let's rush.
Yeah. Speed is a device of Shaitan. Cool your sorrow. Weave the diversions for it. 3 things that ease the heart: water, green grass, and the beauty of a woman. Ooh, mama. I like that. Speed is a device of Shaitan. Yeah, haste makes waste. And in Fremen terms, exercise we've talked about. Speed and exercise are equated to one another.
Correct.
Which ends up obviously creating sweat, which is a waste of water. So, all right, cool. Next,
I know we had a lot of pushback on that idea, and here's what I would say to all of you people who push back: you're wrong.
Yeah.
You can't.
They just did it. They were a fighting culture. Hey, they just did it.
They just did it. Yeah.
Jeff, they did it. They were born. They started when they were young.
Just to dip back into that well for a second. I just love the whole idea of like, well, they had a lot of water, so they probably used it on that.
Yeah.
It's dumb. They didn't use it on anything. That's why they had a lot of water.
Yeah.
Deep hands, short pockets, what we tell our kids.
Don't
spend your own money, spend mine, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if that makes sense to all of you out there, but this idea that waste is anything that is, it's just from a lean perspective, is anything that is in your production system that is not producing, that is not going directly to the production of a product that will be sold. So I like thinking about waste in this way because it's a more systemic idea. Typically, we think of waste as a pejorative. There's some resource, you spilled some of it, you shouldn't have. But actually waste can be it can be the acquisition of resources that aren't in use. So the way that Toyota became a dominant player in the American auto industry is they set a goal to sell more cars while producing fewer of them. The habit of American auto manufacturers was to overproduce cars. So our factories produce tons and tons and tons of defective vehicles, and more non-defective vehicles than we could actually sell. So Toyota did two things. They have an idea of just-in-time delivery system, so that pieces or parts aren't sitting on a loading bay or a dock somewhere, not being put in cars. So their distribution networks so their process, their sort of lean process, their factory processes, those things are very important. But also very important is this idea of just-in-time delivery of parts, and their distribution networks are key to how they were able to accomplish that mission. So if we apply the idea of waste of water in terms of the Fremen, bringing water into any process that doesn't provide, that isn't currently providing value, is a waste. And so then how you would think about the value of martial training, since that's what we're talking about, the best way to think about it would be the version where you're only using speed or you're only using force that generates sweat or waste water or causes you to be thirsty, or whatever way we can think of water entering into this picture. You would only use it where absolutely necessary. And then, we can fight with nerds about where absolutely necessary. But if your entire trained cadre of, if all of your people are potentially fighters and above a certain age, I think we can expect that all Fremen are gonna shiv you in the spleen. For looking at them crossways. All of those people have to be skilled, including these adolescent kids. They have to know how to fight. So anyway, we don't have to reopen that whole conversation, but I think it's just more, I think it's important to think about this here, because the ways to come will be phenomenal.
That's right. Okay, next chapter.
Yes.
Page 332. Do you want to read the lengthy intro?
That was a lengthy intro.
It's a lengthy intro. I like it. It's a good one.
Okay. Yes, I do want to read it, but you have to give me a second here because I see a word and I need to hear it. Okay, so family life of the royal creche is difficult for many people to understand, but I shall try to give you a capsule view of it. My father had only one real friend, I think. That was Count Hazimir Fenring, the genetic eunuch and one of the deadliest fighters in the Imperium. The Count, a dapper and ugly little man, brought a new slave concubine to my father one day, and I was dispatched by my mother to spy on the proceedings. All of us spied on my father as a matter of self-protection. One of the slave concubines permitted my father under the Bene Gesserit Guild agreement, could not, of course, bear a royal successor, but the intrigues were constant and oppressive in their similarity. We became adept, my mother and sisters and I, at avoiding subtle instruments of death. It may seem a dreadful thing to say, but I am not at all sure my father was innocent in all these attempts. A royal family is not like other families. Here was a new slave concubine then, red-haired like my father, willowy and graceful. She had a dancer's muscles, and her training obviously had included enticement. My father looked at her for a long time as she postured unclothed before him. Finally, he said, "She is too beautiful. We will save her as a gift." You have no idea how much consternation this restraint created in the royal creche. Subtlety and self-control were, after all, the most deadly threats to us. From In My Father's House by the Princess Irulan.
lot there.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. I'm not sure I understand. Well, no, I think I do. Sorry, I was going to say I don't know if I understand the last statement, but I think I do actually. I don't know. How does this relate to this chapter, though? Usually, there's a good relation, and I don't know if I see it for this chapter. Let me see here.
Well, isn't it? It's telling us a little bit about Jessica's history, is it not?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, is that's in your mind? That is Jessica?
Is it not?
Yeah, maybe it is. She is Baron's daughter, so he has red hair. She did describe her as having reddish hair.
I don't know if this Bene Gesserit slave is Jessica, but
Right.
I think it's setting us up for, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So the idea is she's a gift for the Atreides.
Yeah, I think that's
Who's
the way
not
that I
supposed
read
to
it.
have? Who's not supposed to have? Who's supposed to have a girl, not a boy? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, it's important that this word creche is important. A model or tableau representing the scene of Jesus's birth displayed in homes or public places at Christmas, or a nursery where babies and young children are cared for during the working day.
Mm-hmm.
The family life of the royal creche. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So
it's literally a daycare center, right?
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
Just to echo that.
Right.
That's interesting.
Right. In terms of, yeah, so he's not allowed, according to the Bene Gesserit thing, the Bene Gesserit agreement could not, of course, bear a royal successor. So the idea is he would not be able to name a child from his Bene Gesserit slave concubines. It's not clear.
It's not clear.
The concubine may not be a Bene Gesserit. In fact, I mean, they definitely.
No, he's allowed to. There's an agreement that he has with the Bene
Yeah.
Gesserits that allows him to take concubines.
Yes, but he cannot.
They can't bear a royal successor.
Right. He can't change one of his kids. He can't what's the word for it? Delegitimize this child and say you're not going to be my successor anymore. And what she's saying is, it seems that a couple of times there were threats on their lives for, in fact, that to actually happen.
Yeah.
And then it obviously didn't. They all lived, and then he has this one right in front of her.
I don't know if this is Jessica or not. By the way,
right. Yeah. You have no idea how much consternation this restraint created in the royal creche. Consternation, confusion, i.e., why didn't he bang this beautiful girl?
Right.
Yeah. And then subtlety and self-control were, after all, the most deadly threats to us all. Keeping them on edge is what I'm hearing there.
Yes.
He would do strange things that boggled the mind.
Correct. Counterintuitive, or at least designed to make sure that people couldn't predict his responses.
Yeah. Great.
I like it.
Okay. So cool. So what happens here? They're still in the desert. I find learning about what it's like to be in the desert interesting, but also super boring.
Yes.
I
do too, by the way.
Yeah. I guess how the mind gears itself for environment, she thought, and she recalled a Bene Gesserit axiom: the mind can go either direction under stress, towards positive or toward negative, on or off. Think of it as a spectrum whose extremes are unconsciousness at the negative end and hyperconscious at the positive end. The way the mind will learn under stress is strongly influenced by training. It does say that Paul finds himself enjoying the silence out there. The previous thing from a previous chapter was that at a young age Paul learned silence, so obviously that helped make him effective. What's there really to say about this chapter? They do some different stuff with the landscape. Another worm comes. They don't get eaten by it. They get to a place that looks like it's a small little oasis, but I don't know. It's really hard for me. I don't know. It almost seems like this is a little garden within a mostly rock structure, not in the open desert. I mean, it seems like this is what they do. They go from like rock structures that have caves and crevices and habitable areas where the worm can't get them. They run from one of those to another. Also, why does their fremkit only include one thumper?
Right.
I mean that means you can go from that pretty much limit. I mean that means you need to get another one at
One
your next
worm.
location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because apparently the worms eat the thumpers.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, is it because actually Paul and Jessica misuse that? Maybe that is why. Because what happens? They use the thumper to collect it. They use a thumper to divert a worm so they can run to the next one because they don't have the Fremen training.
Correct.
That what you really do with the worm is you summon it and then you ride it. And you grab your thumper and you put it back in your pack. So that's okay.
They didn't know what to do.
Yeah, they wasted their thumper. But what is interesting is they call a worm with the thumper, and then Fremen counter call the worm.
Yeah,
and they're like,
because they know what they're doing.
Right. And there's a moment it says, why would they be doing that? And Paul, in his new prescience, is like, it's at the edge of his awareness to understand why that would be, but it's just out of grasp.
Yeah.
And he remembers the worm hooks in the pack, and he just doesn't quite get it.
Doesn't put it together.
Yeah. But so they run, they escape. They get basically the mouth of a worm is really close to them. They previously had smelled the cinnamony smell of spice, and now they smell it on the worm's breath. And again, another thing kind of at the edge of his awareness is there's a relation here. And then he remembers Keynes had said something about it, but it just can't quite put it together. And then they're in this rocky area where they can walk around. They find some plants are growing. That's interesting.
Seguro.
Right.
They also find some critters, right?
Mice, yes. Yeah. So there are little Muad'Dibs running around.
Little Muad'Dibs.
And then it happens from the other side of the rocky kind of area thing. This is where the movie will be helpful. This is something that needs to be visualized for someone like me. Someone from the other side says, usually, what is it? Most intruders here regret finding the Fremen. Ooh, heavy masculine voice. Please don't run, intruders. If you run, you'll only waste your body's water. Again, haste makes waste. Speed is the device of Shaitan. Jessica realizes they want us for our water flesh, and they don't want to waste it.
Water flesh.
She appreciates the stealth of how did they get so close without her knowing it. And then another voice calls out, make it quick still, get their water, and let's be on our way. We have little enough time before dawn. I believe that is Jameis talking to Stilgar. These are characters we're going to meet. Well, we've already met Stilgar. We'll meet Jameis in a minute. What can I say here? Still, he felt the edge of fear within him and knew its source. This was blind time. No future he had seen. They were caught between wild Fremen whose only interest was the water, carried in the flesh of two unshielded bodies. End of chapter.
So I want to just point something weird out since we're talking about the mouse shadow on the moon and yada, yada, yada. So there was a movie, 1963, called The Mouse on the Moon. And I think one of the main characters' names is Fenric. I don't know if this has anything to do with anything, but I find it fascinating. So it's a British comedy, and it was the sequel to a movie called The Mouse That Roared, which was an adaptation of a novel from 1962, The Mouse on the Moon. So there's a lot going on there, but it's a Peter Sellers movie. He wasn't in the sequel, but he was in the original. So anyway, I don't know. So it's Grand Fenwick is the name of the protagonist. Don't know if it's connected or not connected. I just find it fascinating.
Yeah. I have never heard of this movie.
Anyway.
Grand Margaret. Yeah. So
yeah.
Anything else to be said about these chapters? I mean, this is sorry to the audience. We picked two chapters where I think we kind of went through them quickly. We give you good stuff.
Do you know what? No, we do give them good stuff.
Give good stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the thing, Mike.
Yeah.
You've been camping.
Yeah.
I've been camping.
Yeah.
Our friends and family have been camping.
Yeah.
Who enjoys listening to stories about your camping trip?
Oh God, no one.
No one.
No one.
There was some dirt.
Yeah.
There were some animal sounds and animal noises.
Yeah.
Oh, we saw a feral raccoon. But you can't really describe these vistas in a way that is better than actually seeing them, right? There's like, the campfire always sounds a little more romantic than the actual like smoke and burning embers in your face holes.
Uh-huh.
It's just, yeah, it's just not, you go camping, you don't talk about camping.
Right.
So I don't think we need to apologize. We just spent too much time on Paul and Jessica's camping trip. And by we, I'm really talking about Frank Herbert.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just spent too much time here. Like they literally could have just run into the Fremen 3 chapters ago, and I would have been fine with it.
Yeah, I don't need the MacGyver foam dig out. I mean, if there would have just I mean, I guess it was a plot device to insert the idea that Paul, you've come a long way, but you still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
Mom was
We
temporary.
could have got that anyway.
Yeah.
Like Paul could have been like, he could have whipped out some karate or jujitsu or whatever. He could have done anything in whatever interaction with the Fremen. I'm not criticizing the book, but this slowed the pace down for no particular reason. And I don't think we should feel weird about not having a lot of commentary for chapters that are really just slowly describing the fact that the desert is more alive than it probably seemed.
Right. Yeah. Worms are everywhere. Every time you leave the house, you got to be worried about a worm.
Worried about a worm. There's mice.
There's mice.
There's birds. We're going to find out, right?
Yeah.
There's plankton. We'll find out later. Like there's stuff out there.
Yeah.
So I think he's just trying to unravel a little bit of the mystery of, is Arrakis really just, so whenever we think of desert, I mean, I hardly ever is your first thought about like the flowers that bloom in the spring, the desert blooms. It's true. almost always about the barrenness, the coldness, the heat. So I think that's what this was meant to do. And, Yeah, not much to talk about.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
All right. Well, then I think that's it for our recording session today. And thank you much to the audience.
Yeah.
If you haven't followed us on Instagram, or perhaps more importantly, the Facebook community, go ahead and do so. Decode Dune. So we've now released 2 episodes of Dune in a row. I think we'll be back next time with Foundation book or the show or both or something, and then we'll get back to Dune. Actually, by the time, so a little FYI, Mike's leaving the country for a vacation that he planned in 2019,
Nice.
Partly 2020, and then didn't happen because of the COVID, and then now it's happening now. Where am I going with this? Dune is going to be out in theaters in the US literally like the week after I get back. So Jeff and I will be going to see it, probably together. Probably smuggling peanuts in, or sorry, chocolate peanut M&Ms. We're definitely going. And we're probably maybe going to find a way to record a little bit more, because now we're in this world where we are like in the middle of 2 books, and the movie is going to come out, and then Foundation, the show, is going to be out every week. So we're now enmeshed in this stuff. So when are we going to tell our wives that we have to quit our day jobs to podcast full time? Is that soon? Next week.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Stay tuned for Divorce Court with Jeff and Mike.
Yep. All right.
All right.
And on that note, time to break the news. Actually, I'm going to do it today.
All right. Text me, let me know how it goes, and I'm right behind you.
All right. All right. Have a good one, y'all.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Like and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. And to hear more readings, become a Patreon supporter at Patreon/Decode Podcast.